Hi, I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome back to the S.M.A.R.T Performance Podcast. S for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive problem solving, R for rhythmic operation, T for a thriving community, and P for performance. I'm really happy to welcome Amy back. This is the second appearance on the show. That must mean we had good chemistry the first time around, and she gave rock solid advice. And I'm sure that we're going to do that again today. Building upon what we did the last time, today we're going to talk about the importance of emerging leaders to become really good team members, not just team leaders. And because often your personal brand is put on display in these types of environments, and you can make and break your future when you're still working with others. So let's dive right into it. Amy, welcome back. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for having me again. We did. We had such a good conversation last time, and we did kind of cross over into communication, public speaking, network marketing, not network marketing, networking. And I'm excited to see where this topic takes us based on what we talked about last time. So I'm really excited for this. So, like you said, my name is Amy Lenius. I am back again. It's very rare I get to have double features on shows. I don't typically do that unless it's a really great show. So I loved our conversation last time. Obviously, thank you so much for having me back. I am an intrapreneur within a company called Next Level University. And so the fact that we're going to talk about teamwork today is really exciting. So for that company, I am the facilitator and leader of group coaching. I have my own coaching program through them. I am the live events coordinator and MC and public speaker through that platform as well. And then we just do a bunch of incredible things behind the scenes. So I'm looking forward to sharing how we do that in a team and in a collaborative way.
Excellent. Thank you very much for doing that with us together. So to set the stage, listen, all emerging leaders started off doing, right? Very few people come out of school and go directly in leadership. During the process of doing, you get exposure to working with a team, on a team, and maybe even facilitate a team. Tell me a little bit about what is the first impression that how should people position themselves as they join a team?
Mm. My
Sorry.
favorite word. Good. My favorite word is collaboration. One of them. I have a lot, but one of them absolutely is collaboration. And being a part of a team, whatever role that is just a collaboration in an aligned joint journey way. And when you have people together who have the same vision, similar core values, and are working towards a bigger, better, brighter future, however that looks like, insert company policies, vision here, I think that that brings something really special. And when you are brought on to a team, I think people do one of two things. They either inflate or they deflate, depending on, again, core wounds, self awareness. There's so many things there. So the more you can go in humbly with self accuracy and share your strengths with also sharing your weaknesses, because we all have both. I think that's a really important thing to start with, is showing up as your authentic self. So when I showed up in Next Level University, I brought my skills of speaking. I brought even women's health, communication, stress reduction, the things that I was working on beforehand. But I also was very straightforward when I said my tech skills are minimal. Alan, the CEO, someone I get to gratefully work with so closely, is a just a wizard when it comes to spreadsheets, creating frameworks, and all of these incredible things. And I had to humbly say, okay, man, I need you to talk to me like I'm five. I have never been in Google Spreadsheets. I absolutely can use Instagram and Facebook at its minimum. I'm somewhat proficient in Canva, and that's about it. And that, I think, brought me a lot of respect within the team early on, was that I could lead with my strengths, but also be super humble and ask questions and make sure people knew that I was not proficient in these areas. Because what happens when we inflate, we'll say, oh yeah, no, I absolutely know everything. Yep, absolutely, give that to me. You're creating an inauthentic relationship right away, and you're creating inauthentic expectations and capabilities. And so we don't want to inflate, but to be really careful with that. A lot of people feel the need to be bigger, brighter, bolder, whatever that looks like. And then there are others, again, depending on core wounds, social situations, all sorts of things, who deflate because to them, shining in a social setting is unsafe, because they're going to get villainized. They're going to, again, insert thing here, but If you dim, it's also very important to embrace social courage and to show up with accuracy. So whether you inflate, you need to embrace humility. If you deflate, you need to embrace social courage. Which bucket are you in? Again, no right or wrong. We're all in one or the other. And how can you come back into accuracy when you present yourself to a team?
Well said. And I think that people need to remember that every time they step outside and they go into a group setting, you are representing your personal brand.
Yes.
And that brand can be destroyed by just simple things. Like we always have that one person on the team that has all the answers and has all the questions and doesn't create space around them. And they think that they have to come in with that sense of superiority or that overinflation. Often their knowledge is only skin deep. And when they start peeling the onion back, they fall flat. But once you fall flat, that is something that might stick with you for the rest of your life. And that's very, very difficult to overcome. So people need to be really aware of that, right? So your self-awareness and really understanding your differentiating strength. So before you go into a team environment, give the audience, what are 2 or 3 things that they need to establish for themselves before they step out, so they can be that contributing member without over or underinflating.
Yeah, so before you step in a situation, whether it be an interview, your first team building exercise, team meeting, however that looks, go in with having a moment with yourself of what is it that they're looking for. Because you do want to present yourself in a good way in front of these people, but it's what are they specifically looking for? And what within that can I highlight as my strengths? And what within that can I highlight as my weaknesses, but bring an attitude of, but I am willing to learn and grow. But again, take that moment at first of humility, moment with self-awareness first. Who do I want to be in this space? And the more you can show up with enthusiasm, a willingness to learn, the ability to ask questions and hold space for the answers and really take in what they're saying and you be able to go learn that behind the scenes and show them that you can come back and implement are all really, really important things. But I do think there is a time where before you're going into that meeting, you're saying, okay, who am I? What am I bringing to this space? What is expected of me? And how can I go above and beyond in the areas that I can?
And I think it's important to remind people that ask people around you what your core strengths are, what your differentiating strengths are, and what your blind spots are. And if you hear the same thing 2, 3, 4 times, lock into that's likely your differentiating strength. It's also a potential show block. Now, that is if you're a contributing team member. Now, let's say as a middle manager, you might have to lead a team, and you might have people who are overinflators and deflators. But let's put it into two different categories. You have introverts who often are very smart, very bright, but they have a difficult time to be part of that conversation. What is your responsibility? How can you be that facilitator that gives a voice to everybody around the table? Because on the end of the day, the best teams are when people are teachable and everybody is heard and processed.
Hmm. So, as the leader of the meeting, let's say you want to create an environment of equal opportunity in a way that says, okay, I'm going to lead the meeting and I am going to ask specific questions so that you make sure you're asking the extrovert and you're asking the introvert to make sure that they also have their voice shared because they're typically, like you said, not the ones to jump in. They're going to sit back, observe, kind of process, and then if you can invite them to add value to the space, they do really appreciate and enjoy that. And again, the inflation, that's something you might have to take aside. Because if you point that out in front of everybody, it actually makes the inflator almost worse. They will double down on that sometimes, or they will absolutely be really upset when you point out the gap. If this is their accurate self and they're living up here and you point out this gap, it is very rare that that is met with humility. Very rare.
And
Typically, it
that's
is
because
with
well,
defensiveness.
and that's because the people are leading with ego and pride rather than with humility, right? And people can separate those things out. So really good. So what would you consider some really hallmark um, uh, symptoms of a really good team that people should strive for? What is a good team or a great team for that matter?
A great team believes in the mission. You guys are all working towards the vision. You're all working towards whatever you consider the bigger, better, brighter future. And the leader needs to lead from the front in that, always. We never want to lead from behind and expect others to be able to do it as well as we would when it was our vision to begin with, let's say, for example. But you also, if you're cultivating a team, we call it personal development. Like we really look for growth oriented humans. We look for humility and we look for coachability. Coachability is a really important skill to have. If you don't have the skill, but you're willing to be coached to learn the skill, that's great. If you have a willingness to learn, that's amazing. We also look for high self belief. Your belief is very high in your self efficacy. So, what you believe you're capable of achieving externally, results that you believe you can get. Because self-belief is something that even if you don't know how to do it, you believe with enough time, energy, effort, education, however, that you can go figure it out. That's a great skill to have. We look for lower self-worth or accurate self-worth, not inflated self-worth. Inflated self-worth is that entitlement. That's the person who believes they should get something for no effort just because they should. We really watch out for that one. We watch out for people who are manipulative, entitled, delusional, significance driven. That's another one. You can be significance driven in a positive way, but most people are significance driven in an inflated way. So we really watch for that. And so if you can bring in, again, that energy of humility, growth orientation, and coachability, and just an excitement for the mission as well, then you're going to be a good fit in any space.
Yeah, it is interesting dynamics all the way around, and no matter what position you're in. So one of the things that I personally experienced as I learned to become an effective leader is that I felt the need or thought I needed to bring all the solutions to the table. And the magic really happens when the leader it sits on his hands and keeps his mouth closed and creates a safe space. So how can somebody who now has to lead a team do this and really prosper from that, because that's where real growth comes from.
Well, as a leader, you need to know the same about yourself. Where are your strengths and where are your weaknesses? If your strength is communication, team building, and leading from the front and creating a vision and rallying people together, that's amazing. But maybe you don't have as much strength in metrics and measurements and KPIs and something like that. Bring someone in who is an operations man. Bring in someone who can mitigate your weaknesses so that you can continue to double down on what it is that you do best and create an open space for that. The leader knows exactly what his team's strengths and weaknesses are and guides them in a way that makes it make sense and works towards the vision. It's really, really important. And they learn how to speak to them in their own language. Because if you speak to someone with high self-belief the same way you speak to someone with low self-belief, you're doing both a detriment. It's not great communication skills. So the more you can understand, again, just the highest amount of self-awareness, how you navigate yourself, others in the world, but understand how others are operating, becoming very others conscious, there is amazing things that you can do with a group of people. And it's really incredible to see a leader who has those kind of skills.
It is, and that often differentiates the good from the great teams, right? It is that when everybody has everything together. So let's take a step back and say, listen, I have come to the realization that I know my strengths, I know my blind spots. I am a contributor to a team that is led by a team leader that, after a couple of meetings, is just off the rails. It's just not is not running a functional team. What should I do about that? What can I do about it?
If you're not running a functional team, you want to make sure you're looking at yourself first. Why is that? What is it that you're doing, not doing, that is working, isn't working? Right? We always want to look at ourselves first, even in a team building space, even in a leadership space, self first. And then through self, how can you lead these people better? And how can you assess these people better? And then sometimes you have to make the hard choice by saying, you know what, this person actually isn't a good fit for our culture. And that's tough. But it is more about the vision, the company, the whole group than it is just about one person when we're working with teams. And so we do have to make that hard choice sometimes. But again, looking at self first, what is it that I can be doing more of, less of, better?
Yeah. And I think that having an accountability partner, somebody who is willing to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, can be very beneficial. Having a quick check in, what did I do right today? What should I do more of, or where do I need to pull back a little bit? It is something that, I always say for myself is that when I get excited, when I'm in front of a large crowd, I'm speaking, you know, um, I get pumped up, but I speak fast. Well, with a Dutch accent, the faster I speak, the less I articulate the words, the less people understand what I'm saying. So then my message is lost, right? So I usually put somebody in the audience that when I speak and I tell them, just rub your head like this in my peripheral vision, so I can in real time see that if I'm not, that if I'm going too fast, that I need to slow down. So, what is something that in that type of accountability buddy type system? What recommendations do you have for people to connect and to be able to do little check-ins with each other to make sure they can run an optimal team or be an optimal team member?
Oh, I think check-ins are important in every way, shape, and form. So after everything that we do, we share most important win, most important improvement. What did we do well? What did you specifically do well? Alan asks us this as our CEO. He asks us this all the time. What did I do well? What do I need to improve? Every 2 weeks, we go through every department of the company and do most important win, most important improvement, and run all the metrics, all the things that we're calculating and noticing in each department. We have specific things that we're measuring for every department, and then we verbally go through most important win, most important improvement, and we have it on a screen, we have it all logged. And so we do expect the improvement to be seen. And I mean, it's such a celebration when someone does something really well. We love to make sure we're doubling down on that, but it is just as important to make sure it's what's the improvement. And we do want to see that done within this next 2 weeks, if it's within that realm. If not, if it's like, okay, but within the next year. So sometimes like our live event, let's say our live event is only once a year. So we do a bigger, most important win, most important improvement. We write it all down, we get it all out, and then we'll revisit that a month or two before the next event a year later to make sure that we're implementing those things. But all the other departments that are daily running departments, we're making sure we're checking in on those every 2 weeks. But also, like for after group coaching, the three of us, Kevin, Allen, and myself, the three front-facing people, the CEO, the CSO, and myself, go through, okay, what did we do well for this group? And what can we improve upon? And they're always open to feedback. I am always open to feedback because it's not about just us. It's about how did we communicate to the people we're serving? How can we be better for the people that we're serving? It's such an important thing to be able to do and to be able to have humility to hear and then act upon. But most important win, most important improvement. We do it all the time, and I highly recommend it.
That's where real growth comes from, right? Is that it's the measurement and it's the follow-up, and the follow-up is our weak point probably. But again, listen, Amy, lots of great information. I mean, I think people need to understand that it's important how you show up by really being hyper self-aware to make sure that you don't lead from too far ahead, but also not from behind. And it is about being coachable and doing frequent check-ins in order to be able to make sure that you still stay unified in your approach. Thank you very much for joining me today. Where can people find you, and you have any classes coming up?
Oh. Well, thank you so much for having me again. I love these conversations, and I do believe that they're so valuable to just take what spoke to you the most from this episode and go and implement it and then come back and see what else you can do. But always implement the thing that hit you in the chest the most. And so just honestly, Instagram and Facebook, it's just at Amy Lenius. If you ever want to reach out, you're going to get me in my DMs, not an AI, not an assistant. It's going to be me, and we can connect in any way that you feel you need support.
Sounds like a plan, and I can vouch for that. I've contacted and said hello many a times, and I know it's Amy and not some kind of bot from wherever they come from. Thank you very much, and hey, never knows, there might be a 3.0 conversation someday in the future. Congrats on everything that you've accomplished. Happy New Year. Keep that smiling bright and stay warm up in Canada. To the audience again, without meaningful action, you will not get where you want to go, right? So you need to be very intentional. If you need help along the way, go to the Apple Store, download the Dutch Mentor S.M.A.R.T Performance app. Start working on yourself 15 minutes a day. You find this episode in there, as well as you find on all of the other platforms. Thank you for paying attention. Again, action matters. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and thank you again, Amy.